Spirituality in the Bible. We're going to answer that because you need to know. Yes, what is spirituality in the Bible? It's not like the Eastern religions where spirituality seems to be so much more on the surface, seems to be very non-material, and they talk about mystical things. Is that in the Bible? Is the Bible about mysticism? What form does spirituality take? What kind of an experience is the Bible talking about? We look at the Bible from the point of view of a material framework, and we believe that everything that it speaks about there is talking about things in time and space. Because as far as we can see, it seems to be about a time way back in history where it seemed that God spoke to people. Many people heard the voice of God. They did what God told them to do. They lived in a society that was led basically by the Creator. And then it seems to us that something happened and they lost contact with this and they forgot, and now we're the inheritors of this amnesia. And all we've got now is belief. But what is it that we believe in? And is that story even true? Is that what happened there? They were having an experience. We have a belief. Why is that? And on top of that, to complicate the whole thing, there's this layer of what seems to be commandments or rules that are impossible and kind of crazy if you take them on the level at which we understand them on the material level. I mean, they're basically undoable. Some of them seem to be about morality, how a person is supposed to live, things you're supposed to do and things you're not supposed to do, based on what? That doesn't seem very spiritual. Anybody can do these things mechanically, and it doesn't necessarily lead to a kind of spirituality. This is such an important question because so much lost opportunity happens as a result of us having no idea what that is. And what it is absolutely amazing and designed not for a time in the past, but precisely for this moment, this nexus in human history. And it's very important that we understand this. So what's the main thing that we don't understand here that doesn't put us in touch with what spiritual life was like and what it's supposed to be? We don't understand the language that the Bible is written in. I'm not talking about Hebrew or Greek or any of that, but the mode in which it was written and what it was actually pointing to. The Bible is written in a language called language of branches. It is addressing forces that exist above the normal human perception. Why does it use the language of branches? Because nature is set up in such a way in which there is an upper world and a lower world. The upper world being the world of bestowal and the lower world being the world of reception. And that means not just a feeling, but in our perception of reality, it creates a certain locked off experience for us. Everything that happens in this world, in the material world, happens only as a result of things that first happened, impulses that occurred in the upper world or on the root level. This world is not the cause of anything. Nothing that anybody does here, and it doesn't matter who it is, it can be the Queen of England, it can be the greatest statesman in the world, the greatest scientist, nothing is a cause on this level. This is the world of outcomes. The root level is the world of causes. And that's why the Bible is written in the form that it is. It's teaching us how to rise from this world of outcomes to the place where the causal occurs. because we're intended to be an intermediary. Human consciousness, human spirituality consists of being that transition point between the world of causes and the world of outcomes. We're supposed to be a living conductor for those things. And that's why it seems to us when we read these stories that God is speaking to people. But actually what happens is that a person rises to partake of both worlds for the benefit of the whole system. It seems to us that it's talking about places in time and space, and it's not. Every single word in the Bible is actually a kind of formula that is talking about a state that a human goes through, that you would go through, in transforming your experience from one of egoistic material perception into one that you can call spiritual or godly. And people in the past had a very different property than we have now, internal property, that allowed them to be able to hear and understand this not as a, say, symbolic language. Oh, if we look into the symbolic level of the Bible, we'll understand what we're supposed to be doing psychologically or how it should affect our heart. That's really not how it's written. It's scientific. It's very precise in what it's talking about in terms of states that a person needs to correct themselves towards. That is, change places where they would take into places where they would give. I mean, that's a simplification. But a person rising from the branch level to the root level depends on an inner quality of a person. And the quality that people in the past had that was different than ours, it's not the quality itself, it's an aspect of the quality. They were less coarse in their egoism. They were far more subtle. They were far less connected to the material appearance of things. They understood that language was not addressing one person doing the right thing or the wrong thing, not talking about people and places, but talking about forces, because they themselves were not as embedded as we are into the material or the egoistic level of life. So these things that seem to be laws for us, rules like the Ten Commandments, they're talking about states that a person has to actually reach. States of ascent that happen to a person as they move from the branch level back to the root level. And they do this through connecting with each other. And that's why the story goes, there was a nation called Israel, and in this nation there was God lived amongst them, and they built a temple in which God dwelt. Now, none of that is literally a physical place, like a cage for God, or a house that he lived in, or something like that. The Bible addresses all of creation as though it were a single person, because it's speaking to us at the beginning point of our development. And it's trying to evolve us, it's attempting to evolve us to a place where we come to be in contact with that force that we call the Creator. The spirituality is our evolving through our connection with the entire system of nature. That's what's being talked about in the Bible. And we get confused because we think that there are places and people, and if you go into archaeology, you can find, not all of them obviously, but you can find some of those places and some of those people actually existed and so on in the past, don't exist today, and this is part of our physical heritage. This comes as a result of our complete investment into the material level of life, where we think that something that has to do with source is the past, and that revelation is the future. These are actually states, depth states within people. Now imagine if you actually could ascend from the branches to the roots, you would begin to perceive very differently. You would feel that force of the entire system, the thing that they called creator. And by the way, creator means come and see. That means that we evolve and we perceive. And that place, that sort of ancient magical land of Israel, is not a land. A land, actually, in Hebrew, in the language of branches, means a desire. Land equals desire. Eretz is ratzon in Hebrew, and that means desire. And it is a special desire that's called Israel, and Israel means a desire for direct connection with the upper force. Yasher Kel, that meaning God. God meaning the forces, the essential force of nature, the essential life of lives. And that nation is represented in the story through roots and branches as though it were many individuals all connecting in a brotherhood. And amongst them, in their relationship between them, the quality of love existing between them, there appears the creator or the temple. Why? Because within these people, so to speak, there is a quality that matches exactly the upper force. So the temple is not a place in time and space. It's not made of brick. It's not made of gold. None of those things. It is the attainment of people to be connected to each other through a love that is a concern for each other, taking on the quality of the upper system, of the root level of reality. And what appears amongst us is that cohesive, interrelated, total concern that manages everything and is everything. And that only opens to us when we move from branch to root through the correction, transformation of 125 steps within us that the Bible delineates beautifully, but through a language that we don't understand. Almost nobody understands that language because it's written in such a way that it's really for a past generation. But what it talks about are the exact same things that the science of Kabbalah talks about. And the books of Kabbalah both predate that book, which is a Kabbalistic book, and antedate it to clarify what's actually written there. So if you look into Kabbalistic books today, like The Science of Kabbalah by Yehuda Ashlag, he delineates very clearly everything that's in the Bible, but in a scientific form, so that we can understand that nature has a plan for us and that we must live this out through a system called corrections, not rules, not physical rules that we do with our hands and feet, but instruction by the light. Torah, or which is, the Bible, the Torah, means or is light. And this is instruction by the light, means how do we correct each of these degrees within us to the point that we become less material and more spiritual. I can't think of a more spiritual engagement than what's talked about in the Bible, because it doesn't happen by us separating ourselves, abstracting ourselves, turning the whole process into mysticism. It happens by us completely getting involved in and learning the system of nature and replicating it in us. And that's what the spirituality of the Bible is. And we have access to that by learning the science that underlies all of that. And if you're interested in doing that, check out the links below and subscribe, like, and share.